Did you know that it may be possible to drink less water than you're drinking today while increasing your hydration and improving your health? Welcome to C60 Health Connections, where we meet with leading experts in the health and wellness space. On today's show, we are going to discuss water and hydration, and we are going to learn why staying hydrated is one of the most important things you can do for your body. If you are interested in staying healthy, not getting sick, and aging gracefully, then stick around. You do not want to miss this conversation. Gina Bria is with us today. Gina is an anthropologist and founder of the Dehydration Foundation, which is a leading resource for hydration science and education. She has been named a real world scholar and is the co-author with Dr. Dana Cohen, MD, of the book Quench, Your 5-Day Plan to Optimal Hydration. Kennny Lu is also with us today. He is an international entrepreneur with expertise in a variety of industries, and he is the CEO of springaqua.com. He brings deep technical expertise in water filtration and purification to our discussion. My name is Jessica McNaughton, and I am the Chief Operating Officer at C60 Purple Power. I'm a business executive with years of experience in corporate America. And for the last 20 years, I've been exploring various modalities in health, wellness, and spirituality. Now, before we get started, these statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. Any products or topics discussed today are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. So with that, let's get started. Gina, Kennny, good to see you both. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
I am so excited to have this conversation. We beat the drum all the time about how important it is to stay hydrated, but we've never done a deep dive into the science behind hydration. So I feel like I found two of the foremost leading experts on the planet regarding this topic, and I can't wait to talk to you guys. So Gina, I'm going to start off with you first. I think just to frame up this conversation appropriately, we need to understand, what is hydration? Why is it important?
Right.
How do you define it?
Let's go. Let's go.
Do this.
I'm so excited to bring this to your audience because if they could hear or realize how much we are made of water, how much more we are made of water than we ever knew. So just to sort of set the framework, if we really understood how much we're made of water, I think we would treat hydration differently. And I want to just also do a little sidebar here of everyone's thinking, oh my God, I have to guzzle more water. No. We're going to get you out of that problem. This work, I know, it's not about guzzling more water. It's about absorbing the intelligent water that is available to us. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that because you can actually get a very high volume of your hydration through fresh foods, juicy fresh foods like watermelon and cucumbers. And you just start going down the list. Leafy greens, just for example, Jess, are 94% water, packaged by nature. In collaboration with the nutrition that particular plant is bringing into your life. So I want you to rethink foods as nature's water bottles. So that's one new source of water we're going to help you think about. But I want to get back to this idea and really lay this foundation of how much more we are made of water than we realized. And that comes out of the work of Dr. Gerald Pollack, who's a water scientist, research scientist at the University of Washington. And understanding that water is not only liquid is going to help this conversation along. So we know water is vapor. We know it's vapor. We breathe it in. That's one form of hydration, believe it or not, is breathing. We know water is liquid. And we know water is ice. Those are the three science phases that get discussed. And of course, ice needs cold in order to generate that particular phase of water. But in between liquid and ice is this very long chain of molecular reorganization that allows water to start shifting into a plasma state, a jelly-like plasma state. And are you ready for it? This is the big news. That is what all your tissue is made of.
Wow.
So
Mm.
your plasma-like material inside of you is all water. So you can just press yourself right now, anywhere on your body. That's plasma tissue, right? It may be in muscle form, it may be in organ form, but essentially you are as much plasma as a jellyfish.
Wow. Is this referred to as the fourth phase of water?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So
All right.
that whole phase of water we just weren't paying attention to because we were busy looking for liquid. And I'll tell you
Okay.
just a very quick story about how I came across this assessment or this new phrasing. I was looking at desert communities around the globe and how they hydrate. How the hell do they get hydrated without 8 glasses of water?
That's a great question. Yeah.
Like simple, right? What I found is that in each desert community, they were using different strategies, but the strategies had in common that they were all using water locked in plants,
Wow.
right? So cactus, aloe, chia seed, tubers stored under the ground, literally the water stored under the ground in tubers, in roots, is amazing. So they're like hidden thermoses down there for anybody to activate, right? But each of those plants is using this plasma form of water. And it's a more concentrated. So if you think aloe, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So this concentrated form of water, I thought it was just in desert plants until I met Jerry Pollack. And then he explained to me that every leaf structure, every plant structure is doing this same plasma like concentration of water, changing it from liquid to plasma or gel. And not only that, the next thing, that was the first thing he said that knocked me over, right? Who knew that? That water, all that water's locked up in plants. It's not only blue, it's green, right? There's tons of green water available to us. We don't have to worry about water scarcity. But in addition to that, he said, every living cell has inside of it this plasma form. That's what makes the shape of the cell.
Okay.
That buoyancy. So all our cells need hydration. They need this plasma form of water. And this water can be as, it doesn't have to go into the jelly-like state. To make a transfer into the state, it can only be 10% more viscous. So it can even look liquid, but still be in this new state. And what characterizes this state, besides that jelly-like quality, is that's the state of water that starts sharing electrons. And so it starts sharing, it's making energy. It's literally generating electrical function in our body. And if we're missing that kind of hydration through our food or through our mineral content, or we then are missing electrical function. And that's why we're so tired.
Mm.
That's the fatigue. That's the chronic issues we can't seem to heal past. We just can't get past that barrier, and we need higher voltage, literally the right kind of subtle voltage in the body to get there.
I understand why it's important. How do we define hydration at this point, knowing this new information with the fourth phase of water?
Well, hydration, if we can do a quick dehydration idea so people can sort of assess for themselves, am I hydrated or not?
Okay.
First of all, the answer is no. You're not hydrated because we live in a dehydrating environment. So I used to study desert people. I don't need to go to the desert anymore. I just go to any motel room in America. I just go to any school in America, any hospital, any office, any car, any plane, and it is the same as living in the desert. So if that lands for us, one, how much we're made of hydration, two, how dehydrating modern environments are, including processed foods, drying foods, high prescription use, get ready for this, high cell phone and electrical device use. All of that is interfering with our hydration flow. Mm-hmm. So super important to just say, okay, I live in a dehydrating environment. Now what? And I'm actually need far more hydration than I realized. I need to repair the dynamic fluid flow that I am as a being. What do I do next?
Okay.
So I'm just trying to set all that up for you because, you know, people want to say, well, I'm 70% water or my brain is 80% water. All those things are true, but they're modest details compared to the overall picture of you are basically a water being. You're a walking water dynamic flow system. 99% of the molecules inside of you are water molecules. Now, what are you going to do about that interesting information? How are you going to get that flow going in your system?
Yeah.
And using food is an important part of this whole strategy. It turns out motion moves fluid in your system. So if you aren't, we're an immobile society, we're sitting down all the time. If you aren't using little gestures to move your fluid flow throughout your day, you know, you're on your cell phone and you're tipping your head back, forwards, you're nodding on the phone a lot, because just say yes a lot, because you'll do synovial fluid flushes down your spinal canal. You know, it's like this kind of thinking. We're just reassessing and rethinking what it is to be a modern human in a dehydrating environment with chronic needs for hydration at a higher level than we ever understood. But now we're not going to go for guzzling 8 glasses of water a day.
Okay.
And the reason we're not going to do that is because the water coming out of our taps and the water in water bottles, unless they're from like a natural spring or something, the way we treat water has disorganized the molecular structure of the water. It's no longer in that early plasma stage. It's broken up and disorganized, and it cannot share electrons and make energy in our body.
Okay.
So using tap water to hydrate and guzzling even more and more means you're drinking broken water. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we've got to clean up our taps. We've got to clean up the way we use and treat water and so this is one of the big goals of the Hydration Foundation, Jess, is to help reshape how we're thinking about water and get the water treatment in our society, to get the agriculture and irrigation in our society to think differently about what water, how it needs to be organized to do this amazing electrical labor in our body.
Gosh, you've got your work cut out for you, don't you?
That's all right.
Really?
I'm well hydrated, so I've got a lot of years in front of me.
Well, I mean, my kind of takeaway from what you just said is that pretty much everybody is dehydrated.
Yes.
In our modern society, like we're all running around just chronically dehydrated. What are some of the kind of telltale signs?
Okay, easy.
If to really know, like, hey, I got to
Right.
take care of this today.
Right. Do you go to bed at night feeling like you've been deprived? Are you irritable? Is there a crabby point in your day? Do you feel resentful? Are you not sleeping well? Do you wake up in the morning and sigh? You know, all of these things are indications of a very simple fact that you don't have enough energy to run your life. And that's the fuel is hydration. So yes, there's more technical ways to measure, but do we really need that? You know, I'd rather just tell you, I know you're dehydrated. It's tough. We're all exhausted. We're all feeling like, really? Like, couldn't there be more to this? We want our sense of receiving the joy of life to be more elevated. We want to be able to stop and look at a flower, just for example, and truly receive this incredible vibrations and frequencies that flower is sending out to us, electrical frequencies. And we aren't turned on enough to do that. So I'm trying to help you understand that hydration turns you on. It turns your whole healing system on. It flips you on to another level of living and gets us out of this feeling that we're always in a deficit somehow, especially people who are suffering from chronic conditions, who just, have either told themselves their body just is a broken body and this is the way it's got to look, not knowing how powerful water can heal and bring up our energy so your molecules can do the work they're supposed to do.
Kenny, I want to kick a question over to you because I'm really curious if you think we have a water crisis in the U.S. and if so, why?
Wow, that's a big subject. I think I've heard that out of the water crisis, I think there is a lack of education. I think that's the most important thing. There's lots of water coming around. Sure, the water hitting our house definitely isn't the same water we find in nature up in the springs, with very old pipes in the cities, right? Transporting the water with all the treatments, the regulations to keep it clean, adding chemicals and fluoride and chlorine. There is somewhat, I guess, of a crisis. I'm just trying to be humble about it, but I think there are many solutions that can come from it. And obviously, bottled water is also growing quite a bit, right? But there's pollution, plastic waste comes with that. So I think people for me, it's just coming on a journey, learning rediscovering what is real hydration. I think that was to me, that's big because I remember I used to go to the well to get water. Very interesting. There's one by my house that's about 20 minutes away where lots of people line up. And we would be there 2:00 in the morning because that's when you have the least amount of people. And then I remember getting away from that, getting into spring water. And then finally, we started the water company. Then I had my own. Then I began to realize, wait a second, this is what real hydration is supposed to be like.
Yeah.
So I do think there's a lack of education out there. I think people should start to reevaluate what is real hydration. How do I rediscover real hydration for your family, for yourself? What are the good products out there? What are the ways? It doesn't even have to be products. What are the remedies? What are the things that we can do to add a pinch of salt to the water, right? Or as Gina would often say, you eat a pizza, but follow that with a watermelon, right? What are the ways that we can do? And so I support all methods. Whatever ways that get everyone better hydrated I think is the right way. But that does take time and education. And I think that's what's missing in the market today.
Yeah. I'm curious too. This is a question for both of you. Whoever wants to field it, run with it. I'm curious, what are some of the best sources of water today and what are some of the worst?
Well, I'm going to be biased. You know that.
Go, Kenny.
No, go ahead, Gina. You can go first.
Well, I just want to sort of reset, the larger issue again. And these may be difficult conversations to have and people tend to avoid them. So let's just get them on the table so we can get on to solutions. The way we do agriculture in the United States, putting pesticides on the soils then run into our waterways. And we have a very big problem with highly contaminated water. And I'm leaning on the work of Dr. Zach Bush here, Dr. Stephanie Seneff. We have all the charts and the proof we need to show that our water all over this globe has truly been broken.
Because of the pesticides and the way that we do modern farming.
Farming is a huge issue, but also water treatment facilities, the way we dam up water so that it doesn't do its natural spiraling, running its courses, because water knows how. Well, here's a very big piece of information we hadn't gotten to yet. And this is the hopeful part. So now that I've scared everybody, the hopeful part is water knows how to purify itself. That's its work in the fourth stage. It's its own filter. It's the universal solvent. It's the great harmonizer. Water is so smart. And what we've done is we've stepped into water hydrological cycle right when it's getting to its self-filtering stage. And we've filtered it our way instead of letting water do its work. And of course, it takes time for water to do that work. And we don't really feel like we've got that time. But if we help water to get back into its self-purifying state, its own filtering state, and get that kind of water inside of us, we have a whole different system going on and a whole different approach that can accelerate recovery very quickly. So for example, if you just irrigated, don't make any other changes, don't make those big companies not monocrop, all the other problems we're still going to have to solve if we just get them fourth phase water for irrigation. I mean, we're going to change so much, because the first thing that happens when you irrigate with fourth phase water is the microbes recover. They get rehydrated in the soil, just like they do in your gut, by the way. And then they take over their little army and they do their work. In other words, you're turning on accelerating biological systems at every point. So, but water's the first step.
I feel like what you said was just really profound. And I'm now curious if you're working with the agriculture industry to educate them about how they might be able to do that and what the potential impact might be.
Indeed, Jess, it's so important.
Yeah.
So what we do is we we try to invite the public to send us funds to buy spin funnels for farmers so that farmers get to try it out. They see the immediate change in their land and they're like, hey, give me some more of those. I'm going to do my next 8,000 acres with structured water. So we can change this story very fast. But for our listeners today, what I want to do is I want you to imagine yourself as a glorious piece of farmland. And how are you going to hydrate yourself with these amazing potentials of the water molecules to get in the right electrical sharing features to run the rest of your system, to get your microbes. By the way, our microbes need to be hydrated in us as well as all our cells. So there's a lot of reasons for hydration, and there's a lot of reasons to have these kind of conversations and get people excited about hydrating instead of knowing they've got to crash through all that guzzling, which doesn't work. So when you get fourth phase water, the gel water, what happens is you do not need to drink as much because it's far more effective. That's a relief to hear.
Absolutely.
So now you're talking like 4 cups of glorious tea, like the Chinese traditionally do. By the way, when you add those teas, they're working indigenous practices of helping shift water into this gel-like state. Remember, it can still look like liquid. It's just a little silkier. It's easier to drink, easier on the throat. So that's a lot of information, Jess. I better stop and let your thoughts percolate a little bit.
I know you can see like the hamster in the wheel just going.
Right.
What? Okay, so how do we get fourth phase water?
Well, there's many ways to do it. So I'm an anthropologist and I've looked at, strategies around the world. So not only do people eat it, which that's nature, electrifying the water through 1, photosynthesis, and 2, drawing up minerals through the root system. And by the way, also sharing information with other plants, under the ground as the mycelium. All that information is coming into the water. Water is very smart. It's got a lot of information to decide what's the best thing to do to help you balance and get yourself to the next level of health, because it wants you to survive. Water wants to help you live, right? That's what biology is about. It's flourishing. So eating a lot of foods, and one I can really recommend in this time of challenges that we have in terms of all sorts of threats in our environment is mushrooms are a very important part of a hydration food. And then anything fresh, a pear is 86% water, all structured. So thinking about your foods, and again, do compensatory eating. I'm not telling you, don't have a gorgeous steak once a month. If you're a meat eater, I'm saying make sure you follow that steak with a gorgeous salad, right? Like be thinking, okay, I'm a water being. I've just taken a hit. Now, what am I going to do to support myself so I get more water in my system? This isn't a stringent thing. This is you riding the wave of yourself as a high water being that needs a lot of water, figuring out your strategies for getting it that way. Another really improbable and important way is just adding a little bit of salt. When you put salt, think about what you're doing. A pinch of fresh sea salt is making a diluted saline system, right? Which is what you would, if you were in the hospital for dehydration, they would stick you on a salination pack. So you're just doing this strategy in a smart way, little by little ahead of time. Lemon in that water, warmer water, it's less energy for the body to hydrate. All of these food additives. So if you pour if you don't want to guzzle 8 glasses of water, but you love a little pomegranate, a tablespoon of pomegranate juice in your water, stick a celery stick in there and swirl it, eat that celery stick. All of these things, you're just starting to think differently, right? About where do I get my hydration? And then using water filter systems. I think this is how we do self-protection in our homes, but we want to be more than protectors. We're not trying to, we want to be contributors. So when you're putting water systems in your home, you're affecting your whole property and the soil underneath your property and the way that now it's touching your neighbors. These are electrons passing one to the next molecule. So your potential for radiating out health from your own home is really amazing. We
That's
could
really
do this.
cool.
It's really cool. This is what
really
I mean by how do we, through hydration, through being led by water, become the recovery generation? This is our real work. If you aren't helping yourself to health and helping your planet to health, I don't know what the heck you're doing with your life, because this is what we need to be doing right now.
Exactly. Get on board, people.
Get on board. Come on, join us.
The
It's way more
hydration
fun.
revolution. Let's go.
And we're way more fun than the dehydrated people, let me tell you. So you want to party
We're a lot
with
less
us.
crabby, that's for sure.
I love it, Jess. You're awesome.
Okay, so you mentioned a little bit ago Dr. Gerald Pollack and his water research. Now, there's a new molecule, just not H2O here, right? Will you tell us about, is it H320?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So let's not make this complicated, because I'm always afraid when we have the conversation about structured water that people are going to think, oh, a new water. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
Another new water.
Yeah. So let's break that down, because I am curious about structured water.
Right. I hate the word structured. I wish we didn't have to use it, but because people don't understand it. But I want to return you to this idea that water has the water molecules have their own internal hydrological cycle, and they're cycling through vapor, liquid, plasma or gel, fourth phase, and ice. So, and we don't need to talk about the ice stage unless we're going to visit Alaska. So let's hold off on the ice conversation. But the way that these molecules attach to each other or get near each other is how each phase does a different kind of work, a different kind of labor in the body.
Okay.
And this fourth phase is the phase where the molecules are close enough to generate electricity together. And that then allows proteins to fold. It allows electrical cell-to-cell signaling between each cell. So you can see this whole hydrological cycle of the molecules is becoming a very urgent point of study. It's some of the most exciting frontier work that we're doing, but it's not new to water. It's just new to us.
Yep.
This is water at its best and highest performance. And we just hadn't seen that. And part of the reason why we didn't see that for so long is we didn't need to, because we didn't interfere with water so much. So we were receiving the benefit all along until we started, vast water treatment systems, vast pollution unaware systems where we're throwing things into the ocean, we're throwing things on our land. We didn't need to know about every stage of water until we broke it up. And structured just means that the molecules are lining up like little soldiers in the right way, so that you get the structured appearance of molecules. That's it.
Okay. And how do you get structured water?
Well, again, high mineral content helps broken water get back into position. Okay. And there's lots of ways to do that. You can add minerals to your food. You can blend food and get the water out of the food through, a smoothie. One of my favorites is coconut milk, chia seed, blackberries, and basil. Oh my God, that is so. And I'll throw in a pinch of pink salt. And I can go till 2:00 on that one, no problem. I'm just saying that structured water is water. It's in nature's water restored to its full molecular hydrological cycles. And that's what we're missing. That's what we lost. So where we can get that is, food. And then I believe we're so broken that we really need innovation. We need devices. We need vortexing funnels on our agriculture. We need home healing units in our homes so that the water that comes out of our tap and that we bathe in has been reorganized, restructured, and brought back into its healing power in our life. We need water that's been exposed to sunlight and electromagnetic waves. The indigenous practices are so widespread. For how starting with the way before the Greeks, let's go to the Egyptians. They stored all their water in ceramic vessels. Whoa, that turns on the electricity in the water. The Indians use copper. Copper minerals turn on water, and they start charging up the water, so you're getting more electricity, literally more voltage. You're drinking a higher hydrating drink at that point. So we need a whole menu of things. Everybody needs to be doing lots of different things. So again, start your day with little warm water with pink salt, squeeze in a lemon. Somewhere during that day, have a smoothie if you can, with lots of fresh foods in there. Drink green teas. And if you can make all of those with a high quality water that you can draw from your home, that's why I love what Kenny's doing. He's helping me do this mission of recovering water in our cells and around the globe.
Yeah, I think it's really important what both of you are doing. So I understand that you have a secret for us to make our coffee more hydrating.
Yes. Well, I looked not only did I look at desert regions now for hydrating strategies, I looked at high altitude regions.
That's me. I'm in Colorado.
Okay, great. So
and I like coffee. So I'm like, hey Gina, I've got to get something really good out of this. You got to help me with my coffees.
In high altitude traditions, they always use warm liquid with a plant biology, with a fat. That's the common recipe around the world. So if you think the Aztecs, it's hot cocoa in the morning, right? Mm-hmm. If you think, okay, let's say Nepal. Now you're probably not going to want to do this, Jess, but they use yak butter in their tea. So again, you have the hot biology, plant biology through the tea, the warmth of the water, and then the fat. So the modern version of that is something like bulletproof coffee, if you've ever heard of that.
Or we do our C60 Purple Power MCT coconut oil in coffee with a little cinnamon.
Okay, so that is a more hydrating drink than, I'm going to say, 3 glasses of water. Without
really?
Just that, yes. Okay, so now I'm really laying it for you, right? That cup of coffee is not dehydrating you like the whole, world, unless you have, it's a different biology for each people. If you know you're sensitive to caffeine, you already know that. So you don't need to be part of this conversation. You're going to do your hot tea in the morning with some kind of MCI oil or coconut, teaspoon of coconut, even less. You can start out small, beautiful whole butter, grass-fed butter, or the out of the box incredible food that we really can be using is ghee. So we have it's incredible. We have the science. It's been looked at in the lab. Ghee, against all odds, who knew, is one of the highest structured water producers we have in the food world.
Wow.
So putting ghee in your coffee and a little cinnamon, at every point, you're knocking up the value to your body and the electrical charge to your body.
Oh, that's exciting news.
It's exciting news.
It really is. Well, I want to dive in. Kenny, I want you to tell us a little bit about what you've been up to, because you and I met, almost a year ago, and I bought your home water filtration system, but I was in the middle of moving. And it took me a long time because I had multiple projects happening, and you kept on asking me, did you get it installed yet? And I'm like, oh, not yet, but I have it installed. I love it. I called you back. I was like, now I need more shower filters throughout my house. And I'm loving it. But I want you to break down kind of the science behind the research that you guys have done, and really kind of how you can help people. Because what I think is really cool too is that people can get this high quality water for less than $40 a month, and you've got fantastic system, and I'm not going to try to say any more other than I love it, and I would love it if you could help everyone understand the science behind what you've built.
Well, it's a it's a wonderful journey that we've been on for the last 6 years, and also meeting Gina has really helped because she comes from an educational standpoint where we knew we had a lot of good stuff, but we didn't quite know how to explain it all. Okay. And then she did introduce me to Gerald Pollack about a month ago. We got to spend dinner together. It's great. And so it's really nice to be collaborating with C60 and also with the Hydration Foundation so we can get the word out. Yeah. But it's a simple journey. Back in 2014, because of my ability to speak English and Mandarin, I was actually translating for a US company that wanted to bring supplements into China. It's very simple. They were plant-based, they were whole food-based. And so a lot of people in Asia were looking at higher quality food for them. And it's only natural to go to the United States and try to find better ones, go to Europe, try to find better to bring in and import to the country. And in that meeting, I met several key people. And we're just hanging out, talking about supplements, talking about health and wellness. At the end of the meeting, there's a gentleman called Mr. Shao. So we call him BBH right now. He said to me, "You're that kid I want to work with. So why don't you come back in 2 weeks and come visit me at my house and let's talk about maybe doing business together. I have some great ideas." So I live in Seattle. So I went home, went back to Taiwan. He took me to McDonald's and said, "This is the American dream." Okay. So I was like, "Oh, great. Let's talk." But, everyone has different perspectives, but it was a very meaningful conversation because we talked about clean water, talked about clean air. We talked about renewable energy and all the things that he wanted to do. Then I found out he's the gentleman that originally was the first guy who built that Rubik's Cube, that little thing that everyone plays with a circular plastic. Mm-hmm. He went to the inventors in Austria and Hungary and got the patent rights in the early 70s to make that toy for everybody. And then he also is the guy who made the EKG, his own version of the EKG and ultrasound and the ventilator, got it all FDA approved. So I think I was working with a genius. So I took my pen out and I started taking notes, right? And that just naturally, because we become good friends. In Asia, it's all about relationships. And so we started talking about water. And it was a very interesting subject because I thought that's probably one of the most important things. And this is back in 2014. I was looking forward. I said, look, water is going to be the biggest thing going forward. Everyone needs it. We need it for everything we do. You can't live a day without it. Everything from manufacturing, from the things you use in your car, in your house, everything involves water, agriculture as well. We go on airplanes, your coffee, your tea, everything. So my dad had a really good friend, and that's Professor Henry. And he had the original concept of an ecosystem in a box. Like, how do I make an ecosystem in a box? Like mimicking the spring water in the mountain. Right. So I said to the professor, "Hey, you almost need a manufacturer, a material science engineer. You're also going to need an electrical engineer. You're going to need raw material sourcing. You're going to need all that stuff. I know the perfect person that we need to connect with." Turned out to be Mr. Shao, BBH. And Mr. Shao's like my godfather. We talk every single day now. So I brought together, and a group of scientists. They were very curious, like what Gina's saying, like why so many people would go to the springs in the mountain. They would go bathe in the water and they'll bring it home. Why do they go to the Lourdes in France, where there's about 4 to 6 million people that visit every year with a healing center on site? Why would they go to Northern Springs in Germany? Why would they go to the Himalayas just to bathe in the water over there? Very curious. So once you study the ecology, you study the rock layers, and you study what's actually in the water, the composition, kind of have a good idea how to kind of reproduce it. And the challenge is you can't really replicate a mountain because you can't bring that to people's homes. Houses are too small for that. So you really have to figure it out. Like, you have to go dig deep into the science to really understand how to mimic what the processes are going on. Can that make sense? So you have to learn the different processes so you end up mimicking the right process. So that's kind of what we spent, 2-3 years doing that. And we finally kind of put a product together with 14 different filters. That's the one you have in your house, or yours is the later generation. We've made a lot of improvements. And so that, in essence, many of our customers call now that we've kind of have the ecosystem in the box. So it creates, first of all, because the water is so toxic now in the tap, you have to clean it first, right? Then you have to, like Gina says, structure it, because we found in the composition, in the water in the mountains, definitely structured. And I love anthropologists because they bring meaning to my life. They're the ones who went to the desert and say, hey, why don't you guys drink 8 glasses of water a day? What's going on? How do you guys surviving this whole thing? So they were the ones who kind of said to the world that, hey, they're doing something unique. They're better hydrated than us. So we need to figure out what our real hydration is, right? And so that's when I realized that structured water is what you find inside the watermelon, the blueberry, the chia seeds. And so I began to learn you can actually hydrate yourself eating properly. That's really cool. And that's how they did it in indigenous deserts. But the other way you should hydrate yourself is also drinking the right type of water, right? So trying to mimic the springs, we knew for sure that the water in the mountain was definitely structured and had all the minerals. We knew that, okay? So we had to make sure we put all those back in. So we did the structuring. We remineralized the water with a Maifan stone, okay? Using
With
different
what kind
types
of stone?
Maifan, Maifan. Maifan.
Okay.
Maifan stone is a really well-known Chinese history of medicine where they use it in battles to heal wounds, battle wounds, ulcers, a very well-known mineral in the Chinese medicine history. Yeah. And you have that, but that gives us all sorts of micronutrients, right? And then you also have to make sure that there's a proper pH balance in the water as well, okay? And last but not least, we also found out that in the springs there was hydrogen. And that was, so we said, wait a second, the Lord's has a good quality, a significant amount of hydrogen dissolved. So we figured out how to make that work. And we realized that was I don't know what I say, it's the rocket fuel to a health. It's a very potent antioxidant. So structured water is the foundation to a health. And then adding hydrogen water is the rocket fuel to a health.
Hydrogen water. Okay.
Yeah. So we just went through that journey of just trying to figure out how nature, like I think about nature had a right in the first place. We know that Mother Nature had a right. How do we bring nature back into water? How do we keep it that way? How do we keep it natural without using electricity, without wasting water? And how do we create it in a sense where it's deliverable to people's homes so they can have it every day so we can make a real difference on the planet? Now, the big game changer came when the Hydration Foundation met us last year. They came over to Seattle and said, hey, you guys are missing the point. Well, what's going on here? Well, you guys are just telling the world people about health and hydration. What about Mother Earth? And that's when we begin to realize there's a much greater movement behind what we're doing. And that is, there's a movement behind people really trying to help Mother Earth heal, right? And really trying to get into agriculture, the farming, also teaching people like us who have the system that we can literally drink the water and, get it out of our system and hit the sewage. And that water begins to do water recovery right from your own living home. And then I realized, I was no longer just doing water filtration. I was actually doing something far greater. And that's being part of the water recovery movement.
I just got goosebumps. That is so cool. You guys are leading the water recovery movement. And it's bigger than just hydrating yourself. It's healing Mother Nature. That is freaking awesome.
If you don't have the ecosystem, then you have no planet. And then we're not going to be here anyways.
Right.
Go ahead, Gina.
Yeah. Well, the more I don't want to sound as if I'm telling people to just use food to hydrate. We still need to partner it with liquid water because liquid does a certain kind of work and plasma does a certain kind of work. And it's hard to eat good food and still be drinking broken water. So that's one part of this story. The second part of the story is when we start sharing these innovations in water filtration that understand structuring and not just taking pollutants out of the water, which is what the vast majority of water filtration systems are doing. When we understand that once we restructure it as well, we can add this on to all sorts of systems. And then that whole molecular, chemical and electromagnetic power then starts flowing out from your presence, from your homes, from your person. You're broadcasting differently as a person. Your house is different as the one on the street. All of this begins to accumulate. And then if you're helping farmers irrigate their own fields with this, the food we grow changes. It's a whole systems approach.
I think we're going to have to do another interview in the future around farming and Mother Earth and just in deep dive into that. Because I know today
Yeah.
we're just focused on what we can do for our own health. But wow, I'm so excited that you guys are on this path and that you're trailblazers for all of us. So thank you for the good work that you guys are both doing. I want to kind of go back to the technology a little bit, that both the natural technology and then the technology that Kenny and his company have created. But Gina, you mentioned a water vortex or water vortex funnel.
Right.
And I know this exists naturally, and I know, Kenny, you've been able to kind of figure this out too. So what is it?
It's so simple. All water moves in a spiral form.
Okay.
It moves inside your body in spiral form. Okay. Your DNA is a spiral. Every single, and of course your DNA is made of hydration, plus a few other, things in there, but it's mostly made of water. Our cells, everything about water movement is a spiral. So something as simple as stirring your tea, which is also done in many traditions, one way and another way. In a lot of permaculture, they make composting with liquids that they stir in certain directions. So we're just trying to get a lot of businesses and companies to innovate and think about how they do their water filtration just by adding that last step of the swirl, that spiral, and that's how water comes down a mountain stream. That's how water falls in a waterfall. That's how a raindrop falls. When a raindrop falls, it doesn't fall straight down, it's spiraling down. And that simple motion is nature's way to get the molecules close enough together to start sharing electricity. That's it, to generate electricity.
That's awesome. And I understand that water and sunlight together can help create some natural energy too. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah. So light is also a form of energizing water. Water will pick up any light, and I'm sure Jess, there's even light inside of us. The work of Dr. Fritz Albert Popp identified the first biophotons. So we really have tiny, tiny packets of laser inside of us, and it's interacting with the water. So exposure to sunlight is how nature, creator, however we want to talk about this, generates all life. But it does it in marriage with water. The two together then make magic. So many indigenous traditions would put jars of water out into light. This isn't hard. This is just, we didn't know. Yeah. We got to pay attention to how this was all happening. If you want a good strategy in your own life that you can quickly get to in terms of healing chronic issues, infrared saunas.
Okay.
They're amazing. But you want to make sure you get a lot of near infrared light in that, because I know there's a kind of fancy far infrared. They're not going to do the same. They might heal certain things, but they're not going to get you the full spectrum of light that you're looking for. So I have a little ceramic light bulb. My grandmother used the same kind to warm up the chickens she used to order from Sears catalog to raise chickens in her yard. They're called brood lights. Literally, these are not fancy. We don't have to get fancy. We just have to know. Sunlight, if you can't get out and get at least 15, 20 minutes a day, you're not optimizing your natural biology. You can't heal without sunlight. Yeah.
That is wonderful. I recently interviewed somebody else who's a doctor and anti-aging or healthy aging expert, and he informed me, because I was curious about, hey, people are worried about skin cancer, potential, damage from the sun. And he said, you just need 15, 20 minutes a day of sunshine where your skin starts to get a little pink. And he's like, that's exactly what you need to get your good saturation of vitamin D. So you're sharing that same information.
True.
With me.
True. After that, put a hat on.
There you go.
Don't go to the chemicals, please.
Yeah.
Put on a shirt and a hat.
Okay. So Kenny, will you talk to me a little bit more about your system? Because you've got two different types of water that come out. Will you explain what's going on there?
Yeah, the Wet 7 system that we have, I think it's the one you have as well. It's the golden red box.
Uh-huh.
There's two handles. The left handle is your clean, structured water, remineralized, and it has the regular pH of a 7.4 to a 7.8, in between that range.
Mm-hmm.
That water, a lot of people use it for drinking, for cooking, for soaking fruits and vegetables, even their meat. They soak in the water to help structure it. They give it to the pets. They give it to the plants. So we have a lot of people doing that. Plants calling me about the fruits and vegetables and plants tasting better, and roots growing on plants, and orchids reorchiding. So a lot of fun stuff over there. So that's the one you also use for coffee, your tea, your pasta, your rice, and your soups. And also making, what I do is I put my salad in there. I wash my vegetables in there, and I soak it up, in my tomatoes in there, my little cherry tomatoes, mix it all up as well. Soak it for about 3 to 5 minutes. After that, it just tastes delicious. Yeah, that's the left handle. The right handle, same water as the left. The only difference, it adds in 2 additional elements. It adds the hydrogen water, okay, at a 1.4 to 1.6 ppm per liter, okay. That's a really high concentration of a very good antioxidant. And it also adds in the alkaline water of a 9.0 to 9.5 pH. And then the right water, we recommend a liter a day is sufficient for most people. Yeah, it's a really, really good antioxidant water. People love it. It tastes a little bit different, but just as good as the other side. And that's kind of the two type. Now, people have a choice too. Some people just want to get the structured water. They can. Okay, so we have options. Hey, I just want the structured water. That's the wet 5. Or I want both, right?
Yep.
And so we believe in both, because you have to have the foundation for your health, and that is drinking high quality structured water, eating the right type of fruits and vegetables, and getting your sunlight and exercise. But if you want a boost of antioxidants and something that to really get your rocket fuel back for health, then we recommend the hydrogen water as well.
Okay, so can we dive into that? Because I know a lot of people talk about hydrogen water and alkaline water. Please educate us on why it's important, why it's better, why it can help optimize your health.
Well, hydrogen is like the smallest gas in the periodic table. I mean, it's what we've learned. It's a very potent antioxidant, right? So we know we got all these free radicals in the body, and what I've learned, just kind of simplified way of explaining it, free radicals basically steal electrons from your blood, bones, and organs. So over time, you get sick, you get weak. There's an imbalance going on, and when they say you should take your C60 purple power, or take your antioxidants, or eat your fruits and vegetables, it's because those are known as antioxidants, and they have the ability to donate the electron back to the free radicals, so it doesn't steal from your body. Well, hydrogen's a ridiculously potent antioxidant, and you found that in the springs, and that's not sure that's why people go and bathe. But if you look at the Molecular Hydrogen Institute, there's publishing thousands of studies now on the benefits of hydrogen, with water also inhaling it, right? So it's a very potent antioxidant that helps remove the free radicals. So we did a study one time, and we just kind of guesstimated like a liter of good hydrogen water may be equivalent to eating, 750 bananas in antioxidant value, or 4 bags of spinach, or 35 large carrots. So it's very interesting what it does. And so if you look at all the studies now with inflammation, they have with hydrogen, people with different types of health challenges, there's if you give it the right antioxidant, it's only going to help, right?
Yep.
So I do believe that's a strong wave. Now, the biggest difference in what we do and everyone else, the form of hydrogen we make is called dissolved hydrogen. So it's stable. It doesn't evaporate after 10 seconds. It's there. It could be in a cup for 4 hours or 8 hours. If you put a lid on it, it could be in there for a day or 2. And that's kind of what we figured out how to make. It's not easy, but that makes us unique in the sense where the molecules are stable. I call them structured. In other words, like someone taught me yesterday, they're balanced. That water is balanced, right? Yeah. And so I think it's a very good antioxidant for people to have, especially living in this environment, as Gina said, with all the toxicity around you. It's something to give us a leg up.
I love that. I know a lot of people will use those hydrogen capsules and just drop those into their water to get that same effect. But I'm kind of interpreting that if you do that, there's only a limited window of time in which you could drink the water for it to actually.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, so
we also figured that going back to nature, we wanted to be like nature, how they did it. Kind of makes sense. So we knew that Mother Nature had it through the water, through the structured water, through the rock layers. How do we do it in a way that nature does it? And how do we recreate that process and mimicking the different layers in the 14 different filters, so that when you guys get at people's homes, it's as close to nature as possible.
That is so freaking cool. Wow,
Mhm.
that's awesome. Now, you mentioned that just the left side, the structured water, using that for soaking fruits and vegetables and your plants and all that, and your coffee. What happens? I'm going to go back to my coffee question. Um, what happens if you're using the hydrogen alkaline water for your coffee? Is that
Well,
more beneficial?
it really is the same. The reason why we don't use the hydrogen side, because when you start heating up the hydrogen side, the hydrogen evaporates.
Oh, okay. All
So
right. That makes
right.
sense.
So the idea was to we don't want to stress the hydrogen filters, but also at the same time, we have to be kind of rooted in true health, and that is hydrogen is a very good therapeutic antioxidant. But in reality, the structured water, the hydration, it should be the baseline for everybody.
Okay.
So we have both options. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you.
Mhm.
You guys, this has been a fascinating conversation. I really appreciate both your time. Thank you so much. And I really look forward to doing this again. I am just curious if you have any, Gina, any parting words of wisdom for us that you'd like to leave with our audience regarding, additional tips and tricks or things that people should consider regarding hydration.
Yeah, I do. And I'm so grateful again, Jess, the opportunity to work with people who are really trying to care for themselves and also care for all of us together, all God's creatures, is amazing. And so much more life enhancing than just trying to live a protective life. Like, how do I keep myself safe and my kids safe? And I can't really worry about all the rest of you. It's like, let's do it differently.
Let's do this
So
together.
let's do this together. So one quick fact about hydration is that dehydration by 2% reduces all cognitive function. So just helping you understand, you're below optimal. And all that takes is getting your water system up and running. And you will notice such a difference, such a difference. And there's multiple ways we've talked about on this hour to do that. But I can only get you one thing, just start your morning with a gorgeous glass of water. Don't get it, I don't want you drinking more than you just start with something you feel is manageable. Make it room temperature or warmer. Add a little sea salt into that. Maybe throw a lemon or a cap full of apple cider vinegar, something to generate the rehydration of your own cells, just like the soil in your gut, to get you started with your day. Then you go on to your coffee, then you go on to whatever. Just partner with it so it really helps you. And water will lead you.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm going to put either that yak butter or C60 purple power or ghee or maybe all the above in my coffee.
All the above. Yak butter. Hard to get. A little hard to get. Ghee is better.
Yeah, I love ghee. Kenny, what about you? Any parting words of wisdom for our listeners?
Well, for me and my family, it's been a tremendous journey for the last 7 years to, going from the well, going to spring water, the bottle, to really, I ask many of the audience just to really look at what is real hydration, to really dig deep in that, because that, if you knew your body, like Gina said, was 99% water by molecule, then I believe the water we drink does matter significantly, and we shouldn't take it for granted. We should take a serious look at it, reevaluate what is real hydration, ask all the hard questions. They can get to me on the link you sent. They can schedule time. I'll be on it. I'll talk to them. They can get to Gina as well. We're going to be there to answer any questions.
Yes.
We're going to be available to do a Q&A if they want. But the most important thing is to try to figure out what is real hydration. What does it really mean, right? Because the anthropologists are so cool. They bring, like I said, bring meaning to life, and they bring the history of the goodness and bring it forward. And we get to kind of put the two and two together and begin to realize, oh my gosh, this is reality. Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Gina, Kenny, you guys both are so cool and you're doing such important work. We will put all of your contact information in our show notes below. So if you guys want to research more about Gina and her mission to help hydrate the world and the planet and heal Mother Earth, you can go to hydrationfoundation.org and connect with her there. We'll also add a link for her amazing book, Quench, and you guys can get that through a variety of different places, including Amazon. And we will have a link for Kenny, his company, springaqua.com. And the link that you can use is springaqua.info/C60. And I'm understanding, Kenny, correct me if I'm wrong, but if folks decide that they want to purchase one of your amazing water systems, which I highly recommend, they're also going to receive a free shower filter. And I think those are about a little under $100, $97, $99, something like that. Is that
Yep,
true?
that's absolutely correct. Yep.
So lots of good stuff there. And you guys can, they have financing available. So if you want to purchase one of these systems and you're on a budget, you can do it for under $40 a month. So, cut out some other habits and, invest in your water filtration system. It will be a game changer for you, your family, your friends who come over. And apparently, I didn't know this, but your yard and the ground in the neighborhood around you too, which is really awesome. So
Awesome.
thanks so much, you guys. Have an amazing day, and we will see you next time.